Hi everyone, this is Kunal from Loop 91. Welcome to our first episode in Flow Designer series. This series is aimed at developers who already know their way around ServiceNow. You understand how records, tables, and platform, but you have never worked on Flow Designer. We'll assume that you have zero knowledge of Flow Designer and we'll try to cover every concept from scratch up. So if you're ready, we can get started. In our first episode, we will cover what are flows, how do they compare to business rules, what is anatomy of a flow, what is anatomy of an action, and at the end we'll take a quick example to showcase how flow works. What are flows? Flows are automated processes that execute action based on defined triggers. Think of a flow as a set of instructions that you have given to ServiceNow, saying, when something specifically happens, do these steps automatically without anyone needing to manually intervene. That trigger could be a record being created, updated, or even a predefined schedule. Once that trigger fires, the flow moves through its actions in sequence, updating records, sending notification, creating tasks, calling other external systems, all on its own. The power of that is enormous. Instead of a human sitting there waiting to react to every event, ServiceNow does it instantly, consistently, every single time. And that is what flows are. And that is what you're going to master in this series. This series assumes that you know how ServiceNow at fundamental level works. And one of the most fundamental automation in ServiceNow has been business rules. Now we want to understand how it compares to flows and which is better in what scenario. For example, when you are creating business rule, for most of the business rules, you would need JavaScript knowledge. But when it comes to flow, most of the functionality is no code or low code, and what you get is a visual canvas where you design things for you. Business rules have no visibility in the sense that there is no audit trail. You cannot go and see how many business rules were triggered after you push the save button. But with flows, there is a full execution log and an audit trail. So when would you use business rules? They're best for very small automation. For example, field validation. If someone has put in wrong value, you can stop the operation or auto-populate other fields based on these fields. But for the flows, they are best for multi-step processes, approvals. For example, if you want to create 3 tasks after an incident is created, then you would use flows in place of business rules. Before you start creating flows, let's understand what a flow is. So flow is made of 4 parts: trigger, logic, actions, and outcome. Let's jump to a window where we can actually look at a flow to understand what we're talking about. This is a flow, and the name of the flow is assign proposal to me. It is made of 4 parts. The first part is trigger. Trigger on this flow is whenever project proposal record is either created or updated, and it should run only if the short description contains my name, that is Kunal. So that is the trigger. That is predefined trigger that we have set for this flow. What is the logic behind it? Now, logical parts are where we decide whether a particular action needs to be taken or not. For the example, in this, we decided this flow should only run when this condition is met. So that is logic. Another logic in this flow is that we are checking whether description on this record is empty. And if it is empty, only in that case, this particular action will take place. Third part is actions. So each step that you see, 1, 2, and 4, these are actions. These are the actual things that ServiceNow does for you. For example, this one, it simply capitalizes this string and outputs as cap underscore string. Now coming to the last part, outcome. Now this part is often missed by most people. They don't realize that this is fundamental part of a flow. So what you see on the left hand side is a visual canvas designer, right? That is easier to understand. What is this? This is called data by ServiceNow. We'll collapse all. But if you see, it has trigger, and here is your trigger. If you were to expand your trigger, you would see there are some contextual learnings or information that comes out of this step. First one is the record that is been updated or created, and you have that pill here. This is output of this step, and this output can be used anywhere in your flow. Think of these as your global variables, as it is known in multiple languages. So for example, when I wanted to update the record, I did not go and query the record. I knew we already had this, right? So ServiceNow maintains the context, and what we did, we selected the record from the data side. We went to say trigger, that is this part, and the project proposal record that was updated. So each step or an action will have an input and an output, and this part is where ServiceNow provides that context or the output. Now let's understand what an action is. Action has three parts: inputs, actions, and outcome. An action accepts inputs, works on it, and gives you an outcome. Think of your basic programming function. For example, in JavaScript, you define a function, it accepts parameters, works on the parameters, and returns a value from it. Similarly, in ServiceNow flows, let's take example of this action, capitalize input string. It takes this string as a parameter, or as we are calling it, input, and gives an output that is capitalized string, cap underscore string. Now this is a custom action, so we can actually look how it looks like. It has three parts: inputs, the actions, and the outputs. Now we have defined what an input for this action would be. It would be a string. It would be type string. You name the string as a string, but that works. The second part is the script, the logic, the actions within this action. And then we've defined outputs. So the outputs.output string is inputs.input string to uppercase. So if I were to test this action, I'll put in a lowercase string. What it gives you is an uppercase version of this string. So this was the input, and this is the output data. Cap underscore string would be a lowercase string, but it is all caps. So these are three parts of an action. And for the last part today, we will create a new flow that sends out a notification to caller on any new record created in this table, project proposal. Now this table has been extended from task, so it has this field opened by, and we will create a flow that triggers every time a new record is created on this table and send a notification to the opened by. I already have created this notification, so when to send is triggered. We do not define the conditions here. Who would receive this is the opened by on the record, and what will it contain? Very simple message that your project proposal is in. Now just sit tight for now. We will be in touch once we have more information. So let's quickly jump to Flow Designer. We will click on this plus button and create a new flow. First, we'll define what this flow is called, and we will call it your project proposal is in. First thing first, we will define a trigger, and that is we want it to be triggered only when a new record is created. Then we select the table. Our table name is project proposal. That is it. We are not putting any logic as to when or why will this trigger. We want to trigger every time a new record is created on this table. And there would be only one action on this, and that will be send out a notification. Send notification. Now remember, previously we talked about how this is the context window of flows. So for example, I want to send a notification on the record that was created, right? So what I would do is I can simply click this and drag it here, and that is it. Or if you wanted to click here, you can choose the data pill picker for record, and you click on this and you can select record created, and that's the record you want to use. Then we need to select a notification that goes out. So we will copy the name of this so that it's easy to search there, and we will search. Oh, there's only one here, so we'll select that, and that is it. That is all we needed to do to make this work, right? So we will quickly test this before we activate it. So we will choose a record here, let's say this one, and run test. It will show you that the test has finished running, and you can open the context, the flow execution context, to see what happened, how did it work, and if there's any error, that will also show up here. So if I were to expand this, it will show me what it do. So it did send a notification, and the output was message is success. There is no code, there is no error on this. Now if I were to go here and search for emails, that should show up there. Your proposal is in. This was sent just now. So we can right click and preview the email. Hey system administrator, just a heads up, your project proposal has been successfully submitted. Now let's try and create a new record on this. But before that, we need to activate our flow, right? So we have saved the flow, but we now need to activate it. So we'll click activate it, and yes, that's done. This is now active. Opened by, we'll change it to someone else. Let's call Andrew Jackson. Okay. This is a new project proposal. I will copy this same string for description as well. We will submit this. We'll save it actually better. Now we expect the flow will automatically run in the background, and we will quickly jump to emails to see if that worked. And yes, the second one is also in. It wanted to send an email to andrew.jackson@example.com. We'll open and preview this email. Hey Andrew Jackson, rest is same. So today we learned the basics of ServiceNow Flow Designer, how things start, what is the trigger, what actions can you use, how to use it, what is a flow output, what is an action output, and how can you use output from an action in a different action. Hope you learned something today, and if you like the video, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and if you're being generous, if you really like what I do, share it with others. Thank you guys.